Well, everybody, we made it. Believe it or not, it is time for the IHSA state finals weekend. This coming weekend, we are just a handful of days away from Thanksgiving, a handful of days away from Friday of four classes from 1A through 4A, settling their championships on Friday, and then we go on to Saturday and play four more games. Again, very busy, very exciting time of the year. EDGYTIM here. Welcome, everybody, to the third in Leng podcast. And joining us is the one, the only, Matt Leng. And Matt, it's here. It's here. We're ready. It's time for us to hand out some hardware this Friday and decide some state champions.
Yeah, but first, let's get contrasting styles here. I'm dressed for like the tropics, and you are look like you're ready to like roam the sidelines of Soldier Field.
I really like this jacket. I just got it as a gift. We had a little furnace issue today in the house, so I got very comfortable wearing this for a while. So that's why I'm wearing this tonight. Now, we do need to talk weather.
Yes.
Before we start really digging into this, because, man, I think we could possibly have some issues over the weekend. So, first of all, welcome, everybody. Thanks for watching. This is our state final edition. We're going to break down the four remaining state title games this coming Friday at Hancock Stadium at the Illinois State University. But one of the things that we need to discuss, because if you've been outside, you don't need to be told. It's getting cold. And if you look at the extended forecast, and I'm going to bring that up right now for lovely Normal, Illinois, man, it ain't looking great.
It's going to be cold.
You better get your long underwear and everything else out that you've got, because it could get interesting here for a couple of days. So, here's the forecast for Friday and Saturday at Hancock Stadium. Matt, a high of Friday of 24 degrees. Now, here's the kicker. I don't mean a kicker, but the kicker. Winds west-northwest at 15 to 25 miles an hour. You know what that means, sir? What does that mean? It means if you got a passing game, got a passing game, you better break out the run game. You might have trouble.
Interesting weather conditions.
So that is Friday. Saturday, much of the same. High at 26, even worse than Friday. And winds west-northwest 10 to 20 miles an hour. So we are
This is high. We're talking high degrees. So
high, yes. Yes. So, you're talking is continue to drop during the day. And obviously once the sun goes away, that's when it hits. So anyway, well, hey, welcome to the state final weekend. Now
there you go. And that was your Weather Channel report brought to you by EDGYTIM and Matt Lang.
Exactly. But it's important to talk about because we've gone the whole year without any weather impacting anything. And of course, now the last week, we're going to get weather. Okay, we'll deal with it. We're big boys. We'll bundle up. We'll get warm. We'll go deal with it. But Matt, you can't deny the fact that it could definitely have an impact on the games this Friday and Saturday.
Well, I think for the 1A game, they're going to be just thrown right into the firing pan, and maybe they're not going to think about it as much. I think Lena is used to this. Belleville, it may be kind of new to them. Belleville is down south, and so this is going to be interesting for them for the first time. But if you get into these, the more you're sitting there and waiting, the more the temperature drops and the more it gets a little bit darker. Okay, again, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer or, paint a gloomy
No, we're being
picture.
honest.
But the bottom line is Palace Heights, this is their first time in the big time. And you have two big-time programs in Monticello and Lombard that have to wait till 4 o'clock. It's going to be cold. And by the time we get there at nighttime with 2 new bloods in 4A, it's going to be a little bit of a difference maker. And so you're waiting all day, and you can have indoor facilities and you can stay warm. But when you get out there and it's time to perform and execute, coldness can do a little bit to the brain and a little bit to the alligator hands, if you know what I'm talking about.
But the wind really becomes the impact.
I've talked to several coaches this week, and 2 or 3 of them have brought up this term, hidden special team yards. So think punt team, think kickoffs, think those type of things, think yard, field position. That will have an impact, not just so much like in, where it'll have an impact in between the years, because mistakes in field position, momentum, sudden change. We've talked about this all year.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So, hey, so let's dig into it. First of all, before we break down the IHSA games, we've got to congratulate Amboy. Amboy gets a 42-14 win over Milledgeville to capture the Illinois 8-man title. Matt, this is the 3rd straight year Amboy's made it to the show. We have now won back-to-back 8-man state titles, and Matt, it's quite an accomplishment for Amboy.
Well, in the first year, they get beat by Jason Kirby and his team, and Jason had the team that year. But these last 2 years, there's been no one better in 8-man football, and you could argue that Amboy would have a very good football team if they were playing 11-man football. If you look at their sideline, Coach CJ's talked about this last week. You look at sideline depth. Amboy has it, because they're very thick with their bodies, and they have a lot of guys, and they have between 35 and 50 kids out. This is not taking anything away from Milledgeville. They had a great run, a great year. But right now, the cream of the crop, the talk of the talk, and the walk of the walk in 8-man is Amboy. They've been there 3 consecutive years, and that deserves a round of applause. They've done a great job.
Yep, no doubt about it. So, again, congratulations to them. They take home the hardware and win the 8-man state title. So, Matt, we move on to the IHSA games, and we will start – excuse me, sir. We will start in Class 1A, 10 o'clock kickoff. Can we argue about these start times yet, or should we wait later about that?
Oh, just get right into it.
Okay, good. All right. How difficult is it to find a way, somehow, some way, of switching up these start times? Because let's face it, if you're 1A, if you're 5A, you get stuck playing at 10 a.m. every year. And look, I know it's a state title game. I know kids and coaches will play at midnight if you ask them to. But I don't know, Matt. I just think after a while, I guess the Lena Winslows of the world are used to it, that go there every year. But I don't know. I would love to know the logic behind it. I guess you're playing your smallest enrollment schools, but I would love to know what that equates to as far as attendance. Is there a huge difference between 1A and 2A and 3A and 4A and day one? I'm going to guess probably 3A to 4A, because you're going up in enrollment. My guess is you're probably drawing a bit more people. But look, let's be honest. You're not drawing a ton of people the first couple of sessions, and you see that on Saturday where the crowds are better. But look at the enrollment differences. So, so could you not find a way of rotating these start times to make it maybe a little bit beneficial to everybody else? Just a thought.
It's been a long time since we've talked about this, Tim. I several years ago, I went down to Alabama, and I had noticed how they rotated their classes. So it would be the equivalent of, it wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4. It was 2, 1, 4, 3 or 2, 1. They just kind of mixed. They just kind of discombobulated it and stuff. And I think we had this at one time at Champaign at Memorial Stadium.
1 year, I think it rotated. 1 year changed, and that was it. We never heard why. We never heard why it went away. It just went away.
Yeah, and I mean, Hey, you could argue this year, Chicago, Palos Heights, have a direct shot to get here. They could travel the night before and still be here in decent time. And Maroa is a stone's throw from Hancock Stadium. And then you have our two 1A schools that are literally 4 hours apart from the stadium. And so I don't know. I just wish it would be a little bit different. There's a lot of things I think I would like to have changed, but I mean, I think that would be something that would be an easy fix.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, having a blind draw. I mean, sure, you wouldn't be thrilled about 8A or 4A drawing a 10 a.m. kickoff, but you want to make it fair, make it fair.
Yeah.
That's all. Obviously, there's not a huge outcry for it that I've heard of.
And here's the thing. I mean, I think fans and students and parents will adjust. And I think we just kind of think that, we've done it the same way every year. I think you could make the argument that regardless of what time we're playing, something, the people are going to adjust accordingly. Okay. I mean, I don't think this is a difficult thing anymore, and it'll be interesting too. We could go in a different path and tonight and talk about, what's the attendance going to be like? What's that going to be like? We don't know. But I don't know. I wish the 1A schools kind of would play a little bit at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the 4A schools would like to play at 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't know.
And in the whole attendance thing, I just stopped caring about that a while ago. Because let's face it, we're playing in late November, especially this year. This is it. I mean, Matt, Sunday is December 1st.
I know.
Think about that. We've never played this late before. Now we have, because we just don't realize it eventually rotates around, daylight saving, everything else. But yeah, I mean, this is really, really late in November to be playing, as late as you could possibly be playing. It is what it is. So I just gave up playing the attendance game. I mean, I think a lot of it depends on who winds up going to the finals. I think if it's a new school, I think your odds are better drawing versus programs that go there every year. But bottom line is, as long as the games are good, fans are good, people are watching on TV. Can't deny that. Now it's streaming. People are watching on live stream as well, and that's fine. There's still plenty of eyeballs and plenty of attention being paid. It's just I'm sick of playing the attendance game. Yeah. But anyway, all right, let's get into this. Let's talk about Class 1A. Again, Friday, 10 a.m. kickoff, Hancock Stadium, Illinois State University. Lena Winslow, very familiar face, taking on Belleville Althoff. Matt, this is a game I think a lot of people, ourselves included, have been waiting for since really very early in the year. I think we're waiting for Althoff and Camp Point, and then we're waiting for the winner of that game, obviously, to take on Lena. And here we are. Just give me some thoughts, some observations going into this game. I'll say it right now. I think this game could very well be one of the most intriguing matchups all day on Friday. I really do.
Hey, the bottom line is we had our four powerhouse teams in the semifinals. Storied programs, a lot of tradition. Belleville Althoff is kind of the new kid on the block. Now we have the matchup that we're kind of all waiting for. We have the elite running back at Belleville. We have talent, quickness, explosiveness on the Belleville side. And we have a program, Elena Winslow, that is undeniably one of the dynasties in high school football, IHSA, in the last 50 years. I mean, in terms of what Rick Aarons has done in the last 15 years, he's going for another state championship. And I'll talk more about that later in the four quarters. But, I mean, Lena, I think, really proved a lot of people wrong, maybe. If there was any doubters out there, because I was kind of maybe one of them. I was kind of jumping on the Leroy. I'm not saying bandwagon, but I kind of thought Leroy had an advantage with their triple option. And here's what happened. They kind of slowed that game down, and they made that a 16-7 ball game at halftime. Leroy was still in it. But if you ask
No, they
Coach
were.
Selznick,
They
he'll
definitely
tell
were.
you Leroy made some mistakes at the wrong time. And if there's a sign of a good, well-coached team, teams will capitalize on those
They'll
mistakes.
bury you.
And
They'll
Lena
bury
does
you.
it better than anybody. And their running back tandem back there in the backfield, those two running backs are really good. And you and I have talked about this behind scenes and off record. Lena Winslow's first step, I've always credited it to wrestling and to track and field. And ladies and gentlemen, they're good in those sports too. And right now we're gonna see a great matchup to open up on a cold wintry morning this Friday, and it's gonna be worth the price of admission.
So you're talking about Althoff, and do they throw the ball? Yes. Are they capable of throwing the ball? Yes. But I tell you what, Deidre Hill, I mean, I see flashes of, and I'm really going to age myself, but so it is. I see flashes of Gail Sayers. I see flashes of Marcus Dupree. This dude's the real deal. I mean, you watch him run in that Camp Point game. There are a couple of touchdown runs where he hit it, Matt. He hit an accelerate button or a turbo button that you very seldom see any running back have, and he has it. It's highly impressive. And then, again, was it maybe the first play from scrimmage where Jaden Ellington, the quarterback, basically just faked the dive to Hill and just turned the corner and just took off and was gone. And it's like, wow, that was impressive. So I got to think going in, and there's others for Althoff as well. A lot of talent, pretty good numbers for Althoff. Big up front. They will have a size advantage over Lena. I don't think they really care, but it will be. Is it Lena doing what they do best? Meaning, run your offense, run the football, win time of possession, don't make mistakes, don't turn the ball over, and then hang on for dear life and hope you can get a turnover to the Althoff, get the ball back, and just milk the clock and limit their possessions. Is it as simple as that, or more?
I'll say this. I think there was a lot of not concern, but like, hey, how is Lena Winslow going to stop this triple option? And I can tell you right now, disciplined football and assignment and alignment and doing your job. And so
I agree.
This is a big, big, big moment in this game. All eyes are going to be going towards that running back if you're on the Lena Winslow side of the ball. If they fall asleep and Belleville can big play them, then we're going to have ourselves,
we're gonna have a track meet.
Could be a high scoring game. It could be
a track meet. No doubt about it. I agree. But again, you watch Lena run that offense. I mean, impressive is a small word for it. I mean, it is a machine. It is just, they do it so well. Aiden Wild is a terrific fullback in that offense. He's strong. He runs hard. Very good lean. I mean, he's got good speed as well. Very, very strong defensively at the end.
Sure.
Really, really good player. And again, that line, they're not the biggest kids, but boy, they are just, as you mentioned, they have great quickness. They are just technically, fundamentally sound, and they're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, hey, just to kind of wrap this up, to put an exclamation mark on Lena Winslow, when you have good technique, if you're doing good technique in practice and you expect that and you demand that, and it is part of the standard and part of the process. Sorry to throw out big time coaching terms there and slogans, but Rick Aarons hasn't changed the recipe. They're doing what they do every year, and they expect that. And when you do that and you combine that, it's a recipe for a lot of success. And right now, they're hitting at an all-time high. And shocker, they're 13-0 going into the state championship again. This is going to be a great 1A state title game to wake up on 10 a.m. Couldn't ask for anything better.
And again, it's discipline is great. Playing the way Lena plays is great. Althoff could break that in one play. One play, they could be gone to the house. And that's no joke. That's no lie. We are not exaggerating. Althoff has that kind of speed and athleticism in this team. So it is to me by far the most intriguing matchup. Maybe the whole weekend. Seriously.
Yeah.
Very, very excited to see how 1A. Now, are we going to give winners yet or no?
Let's go for it.
All right. Oh, yeah. Point to me. I love that. Love that.
I'll just say this. Okay, let me go first.
Yes.
I think Belleville, Althoff, it's going to be interesting. This is their first true big-time matchup on the big stage. What's their traveling routine? When are they coming up? Lena has done this for a gazillion years.
Right.
Will weather have an impact at Hancock Stadium at 10 o'clock in the morning, in terms of just, will something crazy happen? I don't know. I'll talk more about this later in the four quarters, but I'm just saying right now, if I had to put my money down.
Hold your pick. Hold your pick to the end. We'll do it at the end.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry.
But I got something I want to talk about that. And it's in four quarters. This is really important. So we'll talk about it later.
No problem. All right. 2A, 1 o'clock kickoff on, we hope 1 o'clock kickoff on Friday. Chicago Christian, again, the Crusaders, one of the surprise stories, certainly I think throughout the entire playoff field. They will take on a very strong Maroa Forsyth team, Matt, a team obviously very familiar with the state finals. That is a 1 o'clock kickoff. Love to get your thoughts on this ball game, sir.
Well, like we said, Toby Vallis had told me, he's like, Matt, Palos Heights and their athletes are very, very good, and they're going to be very hard to handle. And he was correct. They had a hard time handling them. And, Coach CJ and Chicago Christian did what they had to do, went on the road, proved that they can play at that high level. And Maroa Forsyth really was just a steamrolling, fast-clicking, got my gear up at fifth gear, pedal to the metal machine down in Johnson City, and left no doubt early in that game. It was 28-34 to nothing before Johnson City knew what was happening. I said all along, I think Maroa Forsyth is the best team in 2A. This Palo Heights team, they remind me, what they remind me of is back in the day, Hampshire with Dan Kavanaugh took a team down to take on Moweaqua Central A&M, and Moweaqua Central A&M had, with Mark Ramsey, probably about 75, 80 kids, and Hampshire came out there with 29 kids, and they won the state championship.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is what you're going to see, but I think, Josh Joseph is very aware that, their run game for Palos Heights really predicates their success and what they do.
Yeah.
And they've got some doozies up front. Palos Heights got some players up front. They've won in the trenches, and every game they've played, they've muddied it up. This isn't a pretty finesse team. This is a tough, hard-nosed team that CJ's developed. And Maroa's big-time, eriatrics, if that's a word, well, that's
look at that.
over in this
You're
game.
just making words up now. I love that.
I am.
What I find interesting about this game is that I think athletically they match up pretty well. That Maroa has some really good skill kids. Ryan Shepard, the quarterback, really nice player, does a lot of things well, obviously can sling it. Also pretty good athlete running with the football. And, they're never short on receivers. Those kids catch everything. Is weather going to impact Maroa more than it's going to impact Chicago Christian? By the film study and everything else, I would say, yeah, that's a possibility going into it. Obviously, wind, I think, more than the cold. But I just think this has possibilities of being a really good matchup. Again, Chicago Christian, they're going to be new to the stage, first time down there. There's always that concerns early. And then Maroa again, you watch them both, so well coached. Maroa, I love the offense of Maroa. Coach Joseph is so creative. And I know that sounds very simple to say, but he's so creative in what he does. And then he shows you a base, and then he adjusts off of that, and he comes back. There's a different look and a different personnel package at you. Does a lot of really cool things with that offense. It's got to be really hard to prepare for. It's going to be a great game.
Again, I'm going to go back in the history books. This reminds me of a game when Maroa was in the state championship game in 1A, if you can believe it, 1A, and it was against Stockton. It was in Champaign, and it was colder than you know what. And there was a lot of people thinking that an NUIC team from up north was going to beat Maroa on a day where it was bitterly cold and incredible, ferocious winds. Well, that Maroa Forsyth team, they showed people a thing or two. And Josh Joseph's teams are tough. Coach CJ knows this. He knows they're very well coached, and they're going to have to play their best game. I mean, Palo Heights is going to have to play their best game. I think it's going to be a great game. And like I said, like you've said, weather could make a big part of this.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, too. Like,
that's my concern.
Earlier, 5 minutes ago, what time's the 1A game going to end? What time are they going to warm up? And will wind roll in a little bit more earlier during that 2A game? And we haven't even begun to talk about 3A and 4A games. They might not start till 5 and 8 o'clock.
Yeah, well, it's always the case. There's always, you would love to have everything run on time and everything else. And believe me, I'll be up in the studio and hearing all the chaos over the off-air talk and chatter. And believe me, they do everything in their power to get those games in and done and trophies in and done. Try to keep them on time, but we all know it's not. Something's going to happen. Something's going to.
I will say this: I want to tip my hat off to the IHSA because the trophy presentation and the medals, they're getting that done pretty quick and fast.
Yeah,
Kudos
I agree.
to them because I don't think the kids really want to stand out there too much. They want to get over with, and they've done a good job of that over the years. I mean, they've got that down to a science.
Yeah, I agree. That is definitely that is definitely improved. There's no doubt about it. So. All right, then we move on to Class 3A. That is set for a 4 o'clock kickoff on Friday, late afternoon, early evening. Of course, it will feature Montini taking on Monticello. Gee, who do we know at Monticello, Matt?
Well, Coach Coley Weller was on the radio station this morning.
Also got to listen to him on the IHSA press conference on Monday.
And I was taking my son to school, and I told my son Ben, I was like, I sent a text message into the radio station, and my radio station text message was, "Can you please ask Coach Welter when is the last time he went into full Nick Saban rage mode and threw his headset down?" And that happened this past Saturday when they played Tolono Unity during the game, but he did not throw his headset down at the end of the game. I think him and Scott both looked around and were kind of like, what the heck just happened? Tim, I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit about that. I mean, that ending was crazy.
No, roll it. Go, keep talking.
Well, Monticello takes the lead late in the game. Ike Young throws a frozen rope in the end zone. Which, by the way, I think he is really as good as advertised. I mean, here's a player. I want to just say this about Ike Young, that he's going to Illinois to play baseball. He's a 3-sport athlete at Monticello, and he puts time and effort into all of his sports. And you just cannot compliment that enough, because he's really stood in there in some battle-tested situations in these last 2 games. I mean, Monticello's been in some tough situations. Might have to beat Benton in overtime. And so they score, and they kick off, and there's a 15-yard penalty on Monticello for storming the field. So Scott Hamilton and his Tolono Unity Rockets get a chance, and they go trips right. but they have a tight end over there who's covered up, and he's going down the field, and he miraculously makes this catch, and it gets called off, and it's just it's a tough one. It's a tough one for Scott Hamilton. We don't know. There'll probably be an announcement sometime here in the next week of whether this is his last year. Coach Welder has got his team playing well. They're resilient. I saw Steve Kirk today out and about shopping. They're in their rhythm, but they know really what's happening and what's ahead of them in a very, very, very good, physical, powerful Lombard Montini team.
You mentioned Ike Young. Maybe so far in my tape study, the most impressive kid I've seen that really jumped out at me. He's a really good quarterback, man. He does a lot of good things in that offense. Very patient in the pocket. He does not rattle. I mean, he just sits there, very calm, scans the field, makes good reads. Will check down one or two if he needs to. Throws it, runs it pretty well, does a lot of things. He's a good sized kid too, at about 6'3", probably about 180, I would think.
You think he's got a frame that Dan Hartley, but Illinois can put a little weight on to throw the baseball?
Well, again, Matt, it's can we talk? Let's talk about that right now, because all I'm going to hear all weekend is, "Wow, that kid should be getting recruited, and that kid should be getting recruited." Look, folks, it's not 1979 again. Okay,
Yeah.
There are less and less scholarships now than there have ever been. Thank you, COVID years, transfer portal, mainly transfer portal. Yeah, he's a terrific player. Could he play college at a pretty high level? I think so, from what I've seen on tape. But the reality is, Matt, those offers were gone a long time ago. He's a senior. And
yeah,
at this point, you mentioned 3-sport athlete. I'm going to guess, without seeing him play the other two sports, he might end up having a better shot at landing something in those other two sports. And that's not me being Debbie Downer. That's me trying to be as realistic as possible what's going on with recruiting right now. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Point being, very good athlete. Really, really like his game. Montini, again, the win over Byron was absolutely huge for them. I think it just gave them another charge of energy. They, played a good Princeton team, beat them, and then obviously win in the semis to advance. They'll run the ball really well. What's his name? Israel Abrams, the quarterback. He's only a sophomore, another big athletic kid, 6'4", probably about 185, 190. Very talented. Every time I see him, it seems like he gets better. Montini, very strong defensively. And, I think this game's gonna probably be closer than people think. I just think Monticello does a lot of things nice. They're obviously well coached. Same with Montini. So again, it's, I can see Montini. If I'm Montini, I think what I want to do is I want to get Ike Young out of the pocket. I want to see him on the run. He didn't seem as effective to me, Matt, flushed out of the pocket as he was sitting in it. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's a half-off observation. But I think I want to get a little pressure on him and see what he does when he has someone in his face. That was something I thought Tolono Unity did a nice job of last week.
No, well, they did it before in the game earlier in the year. At the end of the year, Hamilton put enough pressure on him to just kind of get him half off. I like that term there. And even Coach Welder would say, I didn't have his best game. But I will just say this about Young. He can put the ball on the money, and he can put it in spots that are very tight windows.
He's got arm talent. There's no doubt about it.
He's got arm talent. And the one game I saw him play, they were off a little bit. The whole team was off. Unity kind of jumped on him. And I'll just say this. Monticello loses 2 games in the regular season, and their first game was rained out in week 1 against St. Joe. They come back on a Saturday where it was 105 degrees on the turf, and St. Joe kind of just took off early in that game, and then Monticello was playing kind of comeback. And so that's what happened in the Unity game later in the year. Monticello was kind of playing comeback. And so I'll just say this about the resiliency of Coach Welder. I know he's going to have him well coached. Steve Kirk will do a great job on defense. It's going to come right down to the wire. We'll talk about predictions later, but I mean, Lombard's got a really good running back, and I'd be really interested to see.
Jeremiah Patterson, yeah, I'm going to bring him up, no doubt.
It'd be really interesting to see. He's a big cowbell, and can Monticello, I guess, limit his yardage?
Yeah,
I've said this all along. I've said this all along, and I've said this to people. If Monticello keeps this game to 2nd and 8 and 37, 36, like they did when they were underdogs against Byron, they'll have a chance to win it, because they put Byron in bad situations. If they put Lombard in these tough situations, it's going to go right down to the wire.
What concerns me if I'm Monticello is that I have a running back, an opposing running back, and Jeremiah Peterson, who might be bigger than any of your D linemen. That can be a concern. This kid runs hard. He runs strong. Very physical running back. Matt, he's the kind of guy that if I'm going into a cold, windy day, I'm feeding that guy until he can't go anymore. I'm giving him 25, 30 carries on Saturday, because he's the type of back that could just kind of carry defenders with him. So that's another storyline to watch, that Martini has obviously been very versatile running and throwing.
No. I mean, that's what you tell kids. Like, hey, listen, in today's day and age, hell, you might be throwing – you might be calling DCFS if we give the kid the ball 25, 30 times. Like, hey, we don't want to hurt this kid. But, like, you tell this kid, like, it's 30 degrees. It's going to be feeling like it's 10.
It's your day.
You're going to get the ball a lot.
It's your day on the state's biggest stage. Here you go, kid. Go get us a first down. So, very, very intriguing game. And then finally,
which star will shine the brightest in that 3A game, I think, is is Ike Young or the running back from Lombard?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then finally in 4A, kickoff set for 7 o'clock on Friday. DePaul Prep, the somewhat, we'll call them a Cinderella team from Chicago, making the trip down. They will take on Mount Zion, again, the Braves. Should we say expected? I think everyone thought Mount Zion would be very good this year, and they certainly have, and they've made it to a state final. I think people maybe a little question them after the regular season when they have 6-3 records in the regular season. But here they are. They obviously have gotten better in the postseason, playing very good football, and they square off Friday night for the 4A title, Matt.
I mean, hey, listen, the bottom line is, and I think in this game, I mean, we know the star power that Mount Zion has, okay?
Yep.
But this team that they're playing, they have, you know more about it than I do, but from my scouting report and from me kind of skimming through, looking at things, they have a very good quarterback. They have a lot of big kids on defense, and they have a handful or two of 3-year starters. And when you have this type of, I guess, maturity, we've seen this. That's a recipe for good things to happen. So I think this.
Oh, there's no doubt.
You get into this late night game, and it's dark, and it's cold, and it's windy.
Yeah.
You better not make a big turnover. I think in our 4A games, some of the great 4A games we've had, that turnover happens about 8:30 at night, and it's just a bone crusher. And you got to win that turnover battle. I've talked to Coach Etherton. He says the special teams have got to be rock solid, and they have to play the fastest, physical, most intense football they've ever played if they're going to beat DePaul. DePaul's playing at a high time level right now. Mount Zion's going to have to match that, because they've done that the last 2 weeks against some really good teams. And that Normal U-High team that they beat was no joke. They took their game to a next level. Trimble will have to have a great game.
Both sides of the ball.
Another kid is Jacob Harvey. I think he's going to have a big game too for Mount Zion.
Well, my whole thing, and I could show you my prep stuff for TV, is the stars need to be stars for Mount Zion. JC Anderson has to have a big game on both sides of the ball, besides tight end, playing defensive end as well. They've got a nice stable of very good players. You mentioned Jacob Harvey's another one. Obviously, Trimble's one. Keller Stocks, the quarterback, obviously has had a very good year. They need to be stars Friday night.
And I want to I don't mean to cut you off, but like I can remember a few years ago when I coached at Olympia and Blaine, and God, I can't think of his last name. He's at Southern. Blaine Talley, or the offensive lineman that we had at Olympia.
Oh yeah, went to Southern Illinois, right?
Went to Southern. Butt kicker on the offensive side of the ball. We don't beat Benton down in Benton if Blaine doesn't play his butt off in the 3 technique, 5 technique on defense. JC is going to have to play. He's 6'7". He's got an arm span of like 97 feet. He's going to have to play at a big time level. You just said that 45 seconds ago. Big time players make big time plays in big time games. Stars are going to have to align.
Yeah, and again, let's talk about the weather factor. Who does it impact more in this game? I think it impacts Mount Zion more in this game.
Yeah, I do too.
They're going to want to throw the ball. They're going to want to do that. And, and again, it's not even the cold so much, man. It's the wind. 10 to 20 mile an hour wind can mean a lot of things. It could be maybe not swirling so bad, or maybe blocked by part of the stadium, but in more cases than not, it's going to swirl.
Thumbs together catching that ball. That's fine and dandy. But when it's nice and when it's kind of cold out and you're coming across the middle and you get alligator hands, it's a different type of ball game.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So again, another real intriguing matchup in our final game of the day on Friday. All right, let's go through your 4 quarters in overtime.
Yep, I give you the list.
I got the list. 4 quarters in overtime. The numbers game. Look at you getting all clever with your stuff. So first quarter, number 1 is gonna be fun, Matt Leng.
Hey, Palos Heights. And I'll tell you right now, Coach CJ and this program right here, they're looking for their first state title there in football. And if they get that and they win that game ends around 3:00 and it starts getting cold. That's going to be a fun atmosphere. They have kind of came out of nowhere, but they've been a solid football team, well coached too. I think we forget that. They got about 40 kids out for football. They're very, very physical. They're very well coached, and they're good, well-rounded kids. Not that there's not well-rounded kids in any program in all of our 8 classes, but gosh dang it, this Palos Heights program is really, never really had anything really to brag about. I mean, over the years they've done some good things, but bottom line is they are in the state championship, and they're looking for that number 1 state championship with Coach CJ. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, moving on to second quarter, number 2. You know who?
Well, Mr. Coley Welter. Waiting for you for a toast. Can we do a toast there real quick?
I'm doing it. I'm here. Hang on. There we go.
There you go. He's won 1 state championship at Monticello High School. He's looking for number 2. This will be an incredible win if he can do it. He has 3 state titles at Aledo. He has runner-ups at Aledo. And he is looking for his number 2, his 2nd state championship at Monticello High School. And I will just say this. They're not traveling to Champaign this year like they were when they played Byron. They got to take another 45-minute road trip up north, and they got to take that haul up there. I'm sure they're going to have an incredible fan following and fan base. I think this is going to be a close game, and that'll be really interesting. So Coley Weller is looking for state title number 2 in Monticello. And they've earned that. They've earned that right to be there.
Third quarter, Matt, number 3. I was 25, and they believed in me.
A long time ago, Josh Joseph was an assistant coach at Sullivan High School with Jerry Leng, and he was a 25-year-old. And Moreau Forsyth, they hired him, and over all these years, through all these years, he has created a dynasty, and he's looking for his third state title in Moreau Forsyth. And they're very physical, and they have won a lot of ball games, and he has been there, and he has created, you know, one of the best 2A, 3A football programs in the state of Illinois. He's the Lane Kiffin of high school football. He kind of comes across a little gruff and rough. But, man, he's creative on the offensive side of the ball, and their weightlifting program, their strength and conditioning program is top-notch. It's going to be really interesting to see if maybe they're in that situation. They've been there before. Will they overwhelm Palos Heights? I don't know. I think it's going to be a really great game, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if the stars align, because Maroa, they've got some players. Can Josh Josephs get his third title?
Yeah. No doubt about it. All right, moving on to the fourth quarter. Forget those last four. Let's settle the score.
Hey, if I'm Lena Winslow, I think I've been on a collision course and a mission all year, because I don't know what Rick Aaron's told his boys, but there's a lot of people, me included, and probably everybody, that's kind of forgotten about Lena Winslow. And the bottom line is he probably told his boys, let's forget about those last four quarters we played down there in Hancock Stadium when we got beat by Camp Point. I don't want to think about that, but I want to get back, and this is a redemption tour. Can Lena Winslow slow down one of the best running backs in the whole United States of America for high school football, who's going to Oregon? And if they do that, I tip my hat off to Rick Aaron and that program forever, because their task at hand and their challenge that is presented in front of them Friday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning is a big one. But if there's someone that can do it, it's the Lena Winslow program. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it's going to be really fun to watch. And I'm telling everyone, hey, don't sleep on the 1A game, people up here in the Chicago area. Definitely tune it in, because it's going to be a really intriguing matchup. Overtime. What's that?
I said it might be a shootout too.
No, I could see that happening very easily.
You know what it kind of reminds me? It reminds me of the Joliet game where it was like 70-50. I mean,
yeah, Joliet Catholic and Montini.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
I can see that. Very similar.
I can see
very similar style of offense.
Here's the thing. Belleville earlier in the year beat Tolono Unity 51-50 in overtime. So they're not afraid to put up the points and go the extra if they have to.
Yeah, no doubt. And then finally, overtime in prime time. Is this basketball? What are you talking about, Matt Lang?
Hey, listen. We have DePaul in the state final game against Mount Zion. Are we at State Farm Center playing basketball? Is Tommy Kleinschmidt coming out? I mean, what are we doing?
He'll be there. He'll be there, by the way.
And I'm telling you right now, this is going to be interesting. Would this be interesting if this game goes into overtime? We're talking overtime, basketball schools, Mount Zion, DePaul Prep, Tommy Kleinschmidt. I mean, I just think it's neat. We have new blood in 4A for the first time in forever. And I want to see this happen. I want to see who shows up. DePaul Prep is a good football team. Mount Zion, will their big boys arrive and step up when the big lights are on?
There's been a lot of expectations at Mount Zion for this group. There's no doubt about it. They realize with Trimble and Anderson and everyone else that this had the makings of being a big year, and so far so good. So, yeah, I agree. It's got the potential to be really, really intriguing.
Trimble scored 3 touchdowns in that Norma U High game.
Yep.
If he gets shut down a little bit, will someone else show up?
But the thing with Trimble, too, is he might be just as impactful on defense as he is on offense. He's a very, very good defender, just a great overall athlete. So, again, one of the many, many names to watch this coming weekend, and certainly Friday for the 1A through 4A state title games. All right, here we go. We hate doing this, but we're going to do it because we do it every year anyway. Here we go. You ready?
Yep.
Go 4A. Who's your pick?
I'm going to go
Stop.
Mount Zion. I think JC is going to have a big game on defense, and I think he's going to come up with some critical catches on offense. I think Trimble will be slowed down, but like you said, I think he's such an athlete that he'll do something on defense or make a play with his athleticism. I think they win 28-24.
I'm gonna go DePaul Prep. I think there's a level that DePaul Prep has played this year that I don't think Mount Zion has seen all season.
Mm-hmm.
I think that ends up making an impact. I think it makes a bigger impact than people realize. I think Mount Zion, again, you keep those kids in front of you if you're DePaul Prep and make them earn every single point. No big plays if I'm DePaul Prep. I like the weather factor working in favor of DePaul Prep. I think they're able to, if they need to go smash mouth, they're more than capable. Nick Martinez, the running backs, had a very good year for DePaul Prep. They're just a very good team. And I think they find a way to get it done. So I'm going to go with DePaul Prep. 3A, sir, your choice.
Well, here's the deal. I've said this before, if Monticello can not muddy up the game, but just make Montini earn everything and make it 2nd and 8, 3rd and 6, and slow them down in that way like they did with Byron, they're going to have an opportunity. I think Ike Young is a dynamic football player. And like I was saying earlier, you're not getting in today's day in college baseball, you're not getting a scholarship in baseball either unless you're pretty darn good. For 6'3", 180 pounds soaking wet, that kid's going to be a baller for U of I and Dan Hartley's baseball team. But that's baseball. This is football. I think Coach Weller will have a few tricks up his sleeve, and I'm not picking against Monticello. I think it's kind of been their team. I think they could very easily be undefeated in this game if they hadn't stubbed their toe against St. Joe and Unity. They're there. I think they win 35-30.
Well, being the nearly north of I-80 Chicago homer that everyone's obviously going to say I am, I have to pick Montini, right? Following the script, right? Look, see Montini live. Very, very good team. Team that has a lot to offer. We talked about the running game, talked about the 225-pound running back. If that doesn't work for you, they got 2 or 3 more very quality on the bench at Montini. This is a team that's got a big roster, that's got some depth, very well coached. I just think the Broncos find a way. Matt, I think this game is going to be a heck of a lot closer than people realize, especially people north of I-80 realize that how good your friend Coley is as a head coach and the way that team plays. You watch that team on tape, it screams at you how well coached they are. They do not do dumb things. They do not make mistakes. They are disciplined. They do a lot of things well. And same with Montini as well. And again, that's what we want to see at the highest level. You don't want to see gaps. You want to see really well-coached, prepared teams. And that's what this is going to be. Unfortunately, I would love to see this game on a dry track and a warmer with no wind, because then I think we're really talking.
Yeah.
I think the weather impacts. I think Montini's able to find a way to get the running game going a bit more. They're a little bit less reliant on shotgun and everything else that Monticello does. I think Montini gets the win. I'm not giving you a score. I'm just picking Montini to win.
Well, but you are also telling us that in the future, when you win the $50 billion lotto, you will build the EDGYTIM Dome.
Yes.
And we will have indoor football in Illinois.
Yes, and I'll be able to move it so we can move it to all different parts of the state to host state title games.
Yeah.
All right, 2A, another another tough game. So who's your pick? Who's your pick?
I listen. Having coached against Josh Joseph and then seeing him and listening to him, I really think I said this from the beginning, and I didn't really toot my horn, and I should have. I think they're the best team in 2A. And I think they're going to be a little bit too much for Palos Heights, even though I'm a big fan of CJ, and I was just blown away with how well he spoke and how much of a great man of integrity and character he is. And they have a good football program, a good football team to beat Bismarck and to beat Tri-Valley and do the things you do on the road speaks volumes. This is their first time in the prime time. I think Maroa will win this game, and I think they'll win I can see them winning by 10 points.
Pretty fair. Well, again, I have in the script I have to play the Chicago Homer, right? Even though they're in Palos Heights, but I'm not. I'm going off script. I'm going Maroa Forsyth to win the game. Coach Joseph has been there. He's done that. He's played in bad weather games. He's played in everything. Regardless, it's what I like about his teams and what they do. Again, another well-coached team, another team that will be prepared for anything. They'll find a way. I think this ends up being a great game. I think maybe a turnover or a mishap happens somewhere down the line. I see a score. I see a score in the 20s, and I see Maroa Forsyth pulling out the win. So there you go. I'm not a complete homer. 1A, here's the toughest ball. Because I can see doors being blown off. I can see 130 points combined.
Okay, so I'm gonna read something from Coach BJ Zalesnik. Okay, I'm gonna use his quote here. I asked him. I go, "What is it about Lena Winslow?" Here's his quote. "I was incredibly impressed with their mental focus. Same tempo, same physicality, same execution, every play, every down." He's like, they're not perfect, but they were outstanding at the point of attack on both sides of the ball consistently for 4 quarters. That team only has 6 seniors. We may be talking about the best Lena Winslow team ever next season. Something to ponder. Will they be back this year on Friday for Redemption Tour Part 1 to prove that last year was a flunky game? It was a weird game against Camp Point in which they didn't even attempt to throw. I don't know the story behind that. They just did not look the same, and I think they've been on a mission all year long, and I think they're going to win a high-scoring game against Belleville. I think they're going to do enough to get enough bodies at that running back and slow him down.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said. I hate to be a bummer. I mean, I can see a scenario where Althoff blows off their doors, like literally gets in a track meet and just keeps going, and Lena's got to run the football and run option to catch up. That scares me. But again, it's an offense I don't think Althoff has ever seen, especially the way this team runs it. No one runs it like Lena Winslow. They're able to change pace. They're able to change. They're running double wing, but they'll show a wing T. They'll show a broken bone. They'll show all different kinds of looks, all with the same philosophy, but still, it keeps you off guard. And then wait till the march of the counters starts coming. So when you think you have the timing down, then all of a sudden, hey, where did he go? Where did this one go? And they're in the end zone for a touchdown. I can see that happening as well. I'm going to go Lena Winslow to get the win. But again, I'm really excited to see how this one shakes out because it's got the potential to be an epic game. I truly believe that.
Physicality was a problem for Belleville last year in the semifinals against Camp Point. I think this physicality and this execution is way up here.
They're really good up front, Lena. They really are. Both sides of the ball. Very, very good. So we'll see. They're going to be outsized. You know that. You know that Althoff's bigger than them on both sides of the line.
We got four really intriguing matchups that we kind of didn't know what was going to happen and who was going to be there. And now that we have them, I mean, I don't know, for some reason, like, I think these could be some of the 4 best matchups we've had in a long time.
I hope you're right. I hope we're not disappointed. But we'll find out for sure. Well, congratulations. You just made it to an hour.
There we go. Boom. We're out. So,
there you go. So,
folks, this is where EDGYTIM pushes that button and kicks me out.
So one thing we need to do, and we keep forgetting to do this, everyone have a great Thanksgiving. I know we get caught up in the holiday or not in the holiday, but our holiday IHSA state finals. So just thanks to everyone that have watched, and we'll continue to do this. We'll do some off-season ones. We'll be back next week. We'll recap the state final games and throw some other things around. But again, it's been great. It's gone beyond what I had expected and hoped for when we put this stupid thing together. And a lot of it has to do with the handsome bald guy with the Illinois helmet sitting next to him. The guy you can.
There, hold on. If I go this way, you can see him. There's EDGYTIM.
There you go.
We don't want to look at that. We want to look at 2 bald guys like this. Like, see, I got both of them.
Well, here. There.
3.
There you go. You'll get to stare at this for 2 days over the weekend on TV. I'd help you all. If this doesn't encourage you to go to a game and not watch on TV, I don't know what does. So
that right there is going to recruit. That's going to recruit and entice television viewers to tune in.
Yeah, but no, everyone have a great Thanksgiving. We'll be back next week and recap the finals. And
we do a great job, Tim. And this is the best time of the year. And there's a lot of great things going on. Turkey, football, Illinois at Wrigley Field. I mean, this is a great time of the year.
Yeah. All right. For Matt Leng, I'm EDGYTIM. Have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy yourself down at Illinois State University for the 2 days, and we'll talk to you next week. All righty.
That was a good one. I think that was one of our better ones. Good job, bud.
Hold on. You haven't gone off the air.